We're talking to Tim. Tim, I haven't heard from Tim in a long time. Tim from Washington State is calling in. Tim, how are you doing?
Good, Dan. How are you? MD,
I'm
nice
doing...
to meet you. I don't think I've talked with you.
Yeah,
no,
Tim is,
but it's good to meet you.
Tim is a longtime caller, and yeah, I guess you haven't called in when MD's been on, so good for that. Good stuff. What is going on, Tim?
No, not a whole lot. I've been working and I work until 6 o'clock. So Fridays, I work Monday through Friday until 6 o'clock. So I've been missing the show. I just had not been feeling well the last couple of days, so I called in today. So I got to call in to you.
Well, great. Excellent choice.
I really wanted to talk about what's going on in Florida with the Don't Say Gay bill. It really, it's something that has been weighing heavy on my mind, and I am so, I know I probably shouldn't say this, but fucking frustrated with what's going on in our nation with this closed-minded bullshit that's happening. And I'm scared about these kids. I remember being in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, crushing on all these boys, including Johnny Whitaker and Greg Brady and a few other television personalities, and not having anybody to talk to. And knowing that these kids in Florida are not going to be able to trust their counselors, not going to be able to trust their teachers, with what they're feeling. Oh my God, sorry. I didn't mean to get emotional. It frustrates me because that type of legislation only leads to the possibility of suicide. The ultimate end is these kids are going to feel so alone, and they're going to feel so lost that is going to be how they're going to be able to cope with it. And it bothers me that we have to have this closed-minded, ultra right-wing, I guess legislation, for lack of a better word, to destroy our kids. That's what it really is it's destroying our kids.
I agree with you, Tim. It's terrible legislation, just through and through. It's terrible legislation. It doesn't help anybody. It only hurts, right? We're just now as a society, and I want to let MD talk because I've been talking for a while, but we're just now.
I just want to get filled in because I'm a sheltered Canadian, so I don't know what's going on in Florida.
Here's what's going on in Florida.
Yeah,
okay.
Clue me in.
So there's a bill titled "Parental Rights in Education," right? Because they always got to name it like exactly what the opposite. It always has to sound better than what it actually is, right?
Right.
I just pulled up the summary here just so I can show you. It states that lessons about sexual orientation are banned outright in kindergarten through third grade, and it also prohibits lessons in other grades unless they are age appropriate and developmentally appropriate. What this means is, in practice, it means that any school that wants to be homophobic or wants to be transphobic, doesn't want to deal with parents calling in and complaining about people learning about gender, learning about sexual orientations, means that they're not even going to teach it. They're just going to pretend like it doesn't exist and just pretend like only straight people exist and only cis people exist, which has never been true for pretty much ever. And just do what they want to do. Like Tim was saying, like this bill is preventing kids who are figuring out themselves, having to have a safe place to talk about it. Right. I'm a straight cis guy. Okay, so I cannot relate to your experience, but everyone that's ever told me, like you, Tim, has said, yeah, I knew I was this way for a long time. I've known it since I was a little kid. And when I was a kid, I had crushes on girls in like second grade. So, you know, like that's a thing that happens for kids. That you figure out there's attraction there. That stuff's going on. And instead of dealing with it like fucking adults, instead of telling your kid, hey, this is how the world works, and, you know, this is how you can prepare yourself for it, Americans like to pretend like it doesn't exist. And as a result, you see the problems and the lack of knowledge we have on all issues related to sex, right? Like, we're talking about abortion? No, absolutely not. Can't do that. You can't have premarital sex. That's what people say. They talk about condoms? No, absolutely not. They wouldn't even go that far because they don't even want you to have sex in general. I mean, like, this goes across all 50 states, but particularly in the South, particularly in Florida, where you're going to see this kind of attitude happen. And it's terrible. Look, gay people exist, trans people exist. Either acknowledge it or live in delusion. I don't know what the other option is there, but like, you can't ignore it. Like, they're always going to be there in society. Mm-hmm. You might as well prepare kids to have a mature and focused conversation about it than do what they want to do, which is saying, oh, you should have your parents teach you about it. And Lord knows, my parents did not teach me what was right about gay people and trans people. Okay. And my parents, by the way, both work in medicine, and they still told me very untrue things about gay and trans people because they went to church and they got their information from other people. And, you know, it's not a reliable way of doing things. That's all. So there's a lot of things going on, MD, in Florida. And the other thing too, just to add on, just like with the abortion bills in Texas, right? This is proposed. This is right. Like inspiring other states to do the same thing. So there's another one going on in Indiana. There's another one that's happening in some other states. So people are trying to pass similar legislation because they're like, well, if Florida can do it, then we should try to do it here. And that's how all these things go. So anyway, it's not great. It sucks.
It seems so strange from my perspective, because it's so, like, it's obviously untrue, right? Like, it's not evidence-based. Like, why would you create that sort of situation when, like, even the people... So what I'd be really interested in is knowing if the legislators think that this is going to, like what they think the outcome is going to be, essentially. Honestly.
If they think that, you know, that there is like the LGBT agenda is like a real thing, and they think that, like, well, I mean, it is a thing. We want them to have equal rights in society and exist as human beings. Like, yeah, that's the thing. But they see it as more nefarious. They literally think like this, what they call gender ideology, is turning kids gay or turning kids trans, when, you know, and
those are the same thing.
Exactly. Well, they're saying, well, they're legitimately, their criticism is, oh, they're saying that being gay or being trans is okay. And like, that's like, of course it's okay, but like, they don't see it as okay. That's the problem. Right. So, yeah.
I don't know. I totally agree with you, Tim. Like, Go ahead,
Tim.
What they're not seeing is that, like with me, when I was a kid, I mean, I was a kid back in the early 70s. You know, I'll be 58 next Saturday. But when I was a kid in the early 70s, I wasn't told that it's okay for me to crush on Johnny Whitaker. I wasn't told that I was okay for wanting to kiss Joey, although I probably shouldn't kiss Joey because maybe he wouldn't want me to kiss him, but I was okay with wanting to, right?
Sure, the feelings, right? Because your feelings were not validated. Absolutely, yeah, and that's the problem with this bill, right? It's basically saying you can't. Ultimately saying you should have parents say it, but really it's to protect the religious right, and saying that they don't want a school to say that this is okay. That's really what it is. They don't want to live in that world. And that's sad because there's plenty of kids that are gay or trans that come from religious homes and are going to experience feelings of attraction, or going to experience feelings of dysphoria. And they're not going to know how to handle that properly because their parents are going to say, no, this doesn't exist. That's the real tragedy of this. We're finally in a place in society where we can actually let kids grow up and live normal lives and be happy with their gender and be happy with their orientation. And this is preventing that. There's no reason for this bill to pass. Absolutely none. in my opinion.
And the other strange thing is, like, what a strange arbitrary line to draw, right? Like, we don't say it's similar to the evolution creation thing, right? Where like, you can't teach this in schools. It's like, well, we don't say that you can't teach literally anything else, really.
Yeah.
And like, on what basis is this something different? I mean, that's the other strange thing. And it's partly cultural. Like, I think it's really useful to approach, human sexuality in education from like a very medical, clinical perspective, because it takes all of the baggage away from it, I feel.
Sure.
What do you think, Tim?
The sad thing about this whole thing is that DeSantis signed it into law, so it is actually a law in Florida. But what I just saw a video of this today. There is a teacher who started a movement with other teachers where they are no longer doing anything having to do with gender. They want to have everyone refer to all of their students as they or them, to negate all gender. They are going with the moniker of MX rather than Mr. or Mrs. They are not talking about their spouses in any way, shape, or form other than my spouse. They are completely negating everything having to do with gender, including heterosexual gender. And I think that's kind of funny because it's kind of blowing that whole thing up in the face of Ron DeSantis and all of the right-wing GOPers, because what it is that now they're saying, okay, you don't want us to talk about gender? We won't talk about gender at all. We won't call them boys and girls. We'll call them children. We'll call them they or them when we're discussing them. And I found that fascinating. I think that's a great way to protest this law, but it still hurts me that these kids are now going to have to deal with this for 3 years. And the law actually says age appropriate in the future. Basically, what they want to do is they don't want anyone to mention gay or transgender. I have a friend who's got a transgender son. He was defined at birth as a female, but came out 2 years ago as a boy. He is now 14, I think. So he would be completely disregarded in Florida. Thankfully, he doesn't live in Florida, but he would be completely disregarded in Florida and his parents, and if they lived in Texas, his parents would be accused of child abuse.
Yes. Oh God, don't get me started on that, Tim. Jeez. I know. Yeah. It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's look, there's, this is just like, I imagine, I wasn't there when this happened, but I imagine there was a lot of people that were freaking out when sex ed first happened in school, like when they said, oh, we're going to teach this in school now, because people were like, oh, you're going to teach kids how to have sex. Oh, what the, of course, people completely misunderstanding what that meant, having comprehensive sex education. And I feel like this is the exact same thing going on, because the narrative is like, oh, they're going to teach like third graders about gay sex and what happens when, this and that happens. And of course, that's not what's going to happen in the classroom realistically. Like what it is just the identification that, hey, there's people of other genders and there's people that like boys and girls and other things too. And that's pretty much all it is. It's as simple as it can get, but of course it's a denial of reality to say that these things aren't real and that we shouldn't acknowledge it. You know,
that's the thing that I find so strange. It's like, it's not like they're not going to find out at some point that
right?
like gay people exist, right?
I was a kid. I'm sorry, but I used gay as an insult for other kids because I grew up in a homophobic area, and that was the thing. But like, I knew what being gay was like, but I didn't know
so
what it means.
That's my question.
Yeah,
like, what are they trying to avoid with this bill? I just don't understand the impetus for the bill. Like, they're it doesn't make sense to me.
Well, and what makes me really sad is that little Ashley in class may have two dads, and Billy, her friend, may have two moms, and they can't talk about their parents because
it's true.
Their parents are gay.
Yeah.
And
hang on, the kids aren't allowed to talk about it either.
Great. So the bill doesn't say. The bill says that the teachers can't. That's so that they can't talk about it as part of their curriculum. I don't think it says anything about students, but you know, like the precedent is still there, right? Like when sex ed comes up, like when they get to that age, like they're still not talking about other types of relationships, right? So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I mean, I can't imagine having to deal with that sort of thing here. I can't imagine what you're going through, Tim, and what folks in Florida are going through.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. I want to thank you for bringing it up because it is super important. And thanks again too for sharing your experiences with that, because I can't imagine. I've said this before. I can't imagine what it's like to have your life. It seems like it would be a lot harder by any objective metric to have to deal with that. And I'm really glad that folks like you can talk to us on the air and share your experiences and just remind us like what we're fighting for, and also remind folks like me who are cis, who are straight, who don't have those experiences, who need to be reminded that yes, this is what I'm fighting for too, to make sure that everybody in this country has a right to love who they want to love. And that doesn't mean loving kids, you know, all those, don't mix it up with the pedophile stuff. Come on. That's another thing too. There's another narrative that says this is encouraging pedophilia amongst people, which is just sad.
Also makes no sense.
Also makes no sense. Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, we should move on to some other callers.